terms of the practicalness of mathematics, there are certain jobs where mathematics can be directly useful. So we look at the quant space, the data science space, knowing your matrices, there's singular value decomposition and so on and so forth. Those things can come more directly into play in that field. I know even in the quant space, they use stochastic calculus a lot as well.
Okay, people should know the struggles that we're having with these technologies. I mean, we've been trying to get this for and almost like 30 minutes now, if not more. Hey,
Yeah.
but
Doctor,
anyway, we're here. You wanted to say something?
yeah, and I was going to say, I haven't seen you in a long time. How's things on your side?
Yeah, no, on my side, I'm sopped with marking now. It's that time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the marking load and everything like that. But otherwise, I'm very good. And how about you?
All good, man. Just going with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And just for the viewers, for the viewers, we're doing this recording for the second time. The first time we had some problems with the audio, and we're doing it again. So I mean, let's see how it goes now. So Saad Kari, I have your CV here. I'm actually scrolling
Mm.
over it. Hey, it's quite stacked, man. It's quite very bombastic and stuff. Um, but I think let's
Mm.
start with what you have studied before
Mm.
we get into the employment that you're currently in and the employment that you did before. So, what did you
Mm.
study, and in which university, and how far are you with your studies now?
Yeah. So my journey started with passion for science, right? Always enjoyed science since high school. So when entering university, I focused on choosing scientific subjects. So that's when I enrolled in a BSc. So I was studying physics, chemistry, material science, and mathematics. Then I continued throughout the years, decided in second year that chemistry is not for me, and then ended up completing my undergrad majoring in physics and mathematics. So after getting my undergrad, I then pursued an honors degree in mathematics, and you were my supervisor for my research project. And then, yeah, that's more or less from a high level point of view. And I studied all at Wits University.
And currently, how is your? I know that you're doing your masters. Can you just
Yeah,
also
so
just share what is?
that's still like a new journey which I'm like considering more from a mathematical point of view in regards to neural networks. So using physics and mathematics in that direction. But yeah, it's research based, part time. So just a key focus on research. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was studying mathematics myself, yeah, I was very lonely, man. I didn't know what job I was gonna do. I didn't know what am I doing. The only thing I had was that I have the passion for mathematics. It was the
Mm.
only thing that made me to do mathematics. And I mean, like back then, it was not like now where you have things like data science, quantitative analyst. You have all these jobs now which are sort of math based. Back then, we didn't know much about them, which is also the other reason
Mm.
why I founded this channel and stuff. So, did you know when you're doing, let's say, your honors in mathematics, or even the way you've chosen your subjects like physics and maths and stuff like that? Did you know that what career were you going for, or it was just like,
Yeah.
I'm just here?
No, yeah, that's a very important question. So for me, since the time I started university, I knew nothing about careers, man. Like my focus was more passion. I knew that I enjoyed science heavily and mathematics heavily. So during the first few years, I didn't really have a clear mindset. When it came to like third year, that's when I started looking at, okay, there's such a thing as geophysics, medical physics, data science, quantitative analysis, and so on and so forth. That's when, yeah, I think in the final year of undergrad, that's when I had more of a like perspective as to where I want to end up being. Then when it came to choosing my honors in mathematics in particular, I think we must stress it's pure mathematics because that's, different from applied. My focus there was the job market, right? So I looked into industry and I noticed more prevalence for mathematical careers. Then too, I did enjoy the element of creativity in pure mathematics more. So that's when I sided with doing my honors in mathematics as opposed to geophysics or physics and so on and so forth.
You know, a lot of people, when we talk about the creativity of pure mathematics, they're like, which creativity?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was studying maths, pure maths for you? How was that? Because I mean, a lot of people, especially when it comes to analysis, topology. I mean, I think people enjoy first year mathematics because it's differentiation and integration. But when you get into second year, especially for pure maths, different story.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
So for me, I really enjoyed it, right? Because in second year, that's when the abstraction begins. So for me, I had like I consider myself to have more of a philosophical mindset. I studied philosophy as well in first year. So I enjoyed that element in pure mathematics because essentially it's very similar to having a philosophical mindset, solving problems abstractly. So like I enjoyed it. I think I had that insight into the power of it from the perspective that, when you create theories or solve abstract problems, you solve more than one problem at one time. And I think that's something that was key for me. Like you can solve with one pure mathematics theorem, you can solve over 100 problems. So I seen the power in that. And yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it.
I want us to fast forward on this.
Mm.
You are currently a CIB graduate analyst in fraud strategy in a bank. Can we mention the name of the bank?
Yeah, it's one of the top three banks. Yeah.
The top three. Okay, because you're talking about mathematics. We'll come back on this, but I want us to just make a throw forward. Have you seen in your current line of work the kind of
Mm.
how does mathematics come into play there,
Okay.
especially pure maths, since we're
Yeah.
talking about pure maths now? Because the reason I'm asking this is because a lot of students ask me this all the time to say,
Mm.
how does this proving theorems and everything like that, how does it get applicable, if any, in the
Yeah.
corporate space?
Yeah. So, like, I think that question would have to like contextualize it depending on the type of job role, right? But holistically, we can speak about the type of skills that mathematics provides. So, the key thing that I noticed with myself over the years is that pure mathematics gives you a high level of critical thinking, right? And attention to detail. And you'll notice, like, when you get into industry, the times that I deal with mathematicians or like through friend relationships and stuff, you notice the amount of detail that those individuals give to the task they're doing, regardless of what task it is. So that's one skill that's definitely, it comes directly out of studying mathematics. And then there's other skills as well, problem solving and so on and so forth. In terms of the practicalness of mathematics, there are certain jobs where mathematics can be directly useful. So we look at the quant space, the data science space, knowing your matrices, there's singular value decomposition and so on and so forth. Those things can come more directly into play in that field. I know even in the quant space they use stochastic calculus a lot as well. So it comes in more directly in that field. In terms of my particular role, not quite much, but since I do take on like innovative projects from time to time, I effectively decide what I want to do, and that's when you can leverage off your mathematical background. I'm not sure if that answers the question. I answered it from two perspectives.
No, it does, man. It does because I mean, like, I think people when they hear it from you guys who are in the industry, because I mean, if it's me trying to explain to them, they're just like, you just want us to do math because, of course, without us,
Mm.
you don't have a job. You know, who are you gonna lecture and stuff like that?
Yeah,
So I mean, if they hear it from somebody who's in industry, then I think that they can quite relate to it. So um, I think we need to start here with the current role that you're doing, and then we'll go to the previous roles afterwards. So you're currently a CIB graduate analyst in fraud strategy in one of the top banks in the country. CIB is an acronym, right? I think is I
yeah,
forget the acronym. What
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
acronym for that?
Yeah, so it's a good question because I think that's also something that I didn't know very well, like before applying for jobs and so on and so forth. So the banking industry is generally, you can say, separated into more or less about four different components, right? The first one would be your personal banking. That's where the individuals focus on us. It's like me and you, our bank accounts and so on and so forth. So the industry behind that. Then you'd have business banking, which has more of a focus on your small and medium sized businesses and so on and so forth. Then you do have the insurance part of banking as well, which would be the third. And then you have CIB. So CIB stands for corporate and investment banking. Essentially, the idea there is that you only focus on products surrounded or targeted towards the corporates. So that would be your large businesses that make a particular threshold. So that is defined as corporate and investment banking. So under that sector, that's where I joined the fraud strategy team. So we don't really focus like, even though it may be fraud, we don't really focus on like individuals, retail, small businesses. Our focus is more on corporates. Yeah.
So you guys are dealing with the big monies, you know.
Yeah, essentially. So that's CIB. That's CIB, corporate and investment banking.
So like, what does your role look like on day-to-day basis?
Mm.
Like, if somebody can just be like, "Hey, you're a CIB graduate analyst in fraud strategy. What does that mean? What do you do when you get to the office? Things like that."
Yeah. Yeah, so I can't speak much to the fine details on that, but I can speak so I'll speak abstractly, right? um, the focus there is more, essentially like assisting the bank in protecting corporate clients, right? So making sure that the chances of fraud occurring are significantly low, or if like ideally not present at all, alongside if situations do occur where there may be fraud and so on and so forth, our goal would be to stop that fraud from having a very high impact. So we focus on those type of things. Now, there's of course there's modeling which comes in. There's technology that's related, like there's monitoring that's related as well. So focus around that whole technology component as well as identifying where loopholes are present and patching up those loopholes. Yeah. Does that make is that okay?
No, that is okay because I can see that you don't want to get yourself into trouble. I mean, this is more like a protective role. It's like you're protecting the bank, and I can understand
Yeah.
that too much
Yeah,
information
but
can now.
yeah, like if you do search for it though, you will get this general, type of interpretation. So it is there on the internet as well for anyone to look up.
Yeah. And do you do a lot of mathematics in this role?
Um, Not really thus far. However, there are maybe certain projects which I've taken initiative to where maybe mathematics can be very helpful, but not necessarily directly. There are moments where some of my like cryptographic knowledge will come to play, and I think that's there as well as my previous experience. So knowing cryptographic algorithms and so on and so forth, that does assist. But then too, I mean, it is a bit overkill for where I am. Yeah.
And coding?
Coding, yes. Then too on particular projects, right? Very particular projects. So because I'm in a strategy role, I mean, my focus is more on being a strategist, right? So it's more of, it leans more towards the business forefront. So making sure that, hey, our process is in place. Does this person know about this? Do we have this to accomplish this particular task? Strategic perspectives. From time to time, I do deal with operation perspectives. That's where things can become slightly more technical.
Because a lot of people who are doing mathematics, I think one of the things that they are very scared about, not really scared, but one of the things that they feel like they lack on, especially if you have done pure mathematics, because it doesn't have, in most cases, they don't have a heavy coding element, as in like when you're doing computer science
Mm.
or engineering and stuff like that. So people are very wary about coding to say, hey, I'm doing maths. Will I get into this roles and my coding is not that good, or can I still learn coding on the job?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I believe, but personally, and we've seen this a lot based on like previous peers and so on and so forth. Most people that manage to study mathematics can definitely manage to learn coding. Like it's generally just a matter of putting in the time to do that. But if you can do mathematics, like you can definitely pick up on programming and coding. So it is relevant though. It does pop up in a lot of different disciplines because there's a technological drive now towards AI and stuff. So you may see things like Python, SQL, and so on and so forth come up, but then too, most people just learn on the job. I think it's not something that is directly necessary, but I do think that it is something that you can learn on the job, if that makes sense. So it's not necessary
Um,
to like be an expert programmer before you enter into industry.
I mean, yourself, you have. Did you learn on the job? Because I'm seeing on your CV here you have like certificates from IBM, a certificate
Mm.
in Python and data science, AI and development, certificate in compression tools and data science V2, and Java and all of those type of things, hardware security, Python, Java, Bash scripting, etc., etc. I mean, did you learn on the job or did you sort of learn before you got into this role?
Yeah, that's a lot. So I do have a lot of certificates, including in cyber as well. Most of them were achieved before I entered the job. So, like the learning
Okay.
on the job, depending on where you are, some companies may provide certified training and so on and so forth. But like holistically, it's more common to just learn on the job um, without like the certification route. So if it's Power BI, you'd learn on the job how to use Power BI, what to do, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, those certificates I achieved before, actually.
Interesting. I remember there was a time when you were going through a very stressful moment, man, when you were still looking for a job, you know.
Mm, mm,
It was quite tougher for you to get into this because I mean, like, people see us here, and I mean, like, I talk to people like you almost all the time on the channel, And then I
Yeah.
always get people who would message me and be like, I'm still not getting the job. So it's almost like we make it look easy when we do these interviews to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have a degree in mathematics, you have a degree in applied maths, you'll just get a job. There's a lot of quants that are being needed, data scientists are being needed, and stuff like
It's,
that. But
yeah.
I remember your journey; it wasn't very easy, to actually
Hmm.
get into the role that you are in today. How did you get the role?
Yeah. So I think like through certain like iterations, you become better at the interviewing process. So like myself initially, like I wasn't very outspoken. Perhaps I was very like like responsive to questions that are being asked as opposed to partaking in a conversation. So a lot of my skills, because I recruited, I mean, I'm saying recruited, like I interviewed at a lot of different places, and I managed to get exposure to some very big international companies and their recruitment processes. So throughout that time, I learned more of the of the soft skills that were needed. And then to yeah, went into the role or went into the recruiting process. Most processes today would include, like your technical assessments to test your abilities and so on and so forth, and then proceed with soft skills testing, um, teamwork, solving, and sometimes like an in-person assessment day as well. So there's a lot of different stages involved when it comes to getting the actual job. Yeah. So for me, it was just that. Yeah, it was just that done well in the technical assessments and just proceeded with the process, until you realize if you made it or not. Yeah.
Hmm. What are some of those things that you can share now which are very critical? I mean, there's probably
Mm.
someone who's doing their honors this year and they are applying or they're thinking about applying. I mean,
Yeah.
what some of the critical elements when coming to interviews or this kind of psychometric test and stuff like that that you think that people should be aware of, those that are in
Mm.
honors?
Yeah. So I think the very important thing, which I didn't necessarily have the liberty of knowing, is that you should be applying in the beginning of your final year, whether that final year is your undergrad or your honors or your masters, because the job application processes tend to open quite early on during the year as opposed to towards the end of the year. So that's the first key thing, because if you end up applying only by October, November, like majority of the positions, particularly at banks, are already, you know, they've already progressed to a very far extent. So you'd miss out on a lot of opportunities. So that's the first thing. I think applying very early as soon as possible. And then secondly, making sure that your CV is up to date, so that your CV is done in the ideal format and so on and so forth, and that you have the correct critical information there. Those would be the first two things that I'd focus on. And then once you do get called in for the interviewing process, I think like some people get a bit too nervous, and as a result of that, they suffer from showcasing their talents and abilities, right? So I think that yeah, people should just focus on speaking, because at the end of the day, like we do understand someone from a mathematics background, or we have an understanding of what the person went through, but recruiters don't necessarily always have that insight. We can't assume that recruiters know what topology is about or what functional analysis is about. So from that perspective, you have to showcase your skill and say, like speak about your abilities, why you think you're deserving of the job, how you resolve difficult situations, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of these general HR questions which you can easily find on the web. So I think practicing that and just having that confidence to showcase your skill is very important. And then yeah, the technical assignments should come naturally. Like once you get them, just do your best in solving them and then see where the process takes you from there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I can. Yeah, no. This job hunting thing, it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. I think
But being
yeah,
on the other, hmm
yeah, no,
yeah,
sorry.
you can go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it's more, the case that we have an influx of applicants as opposed to skill recognition. So what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of talent out there, and I think recruiters are aware of that. But at the end of the day, they only have specific headcount that they can take, right? So as a result of that, that's when we start seeing these additional stages of recruitment to fine tune and make sure that they get the best possible candidates. Because you may see, like, even for a quants grad program, it could be at a major bank around 3,000 applications, 4,000 applications. And that program may only want 14, 15 people, right? So that's why I think it's important to focus on all aspects, like besides academia, just to have like that soft skills, be good in like communication and being able to present and so on and so forth. I do think like so like additional certifications and stuff are always like beneficial because they make someone stand out. So
Yeah,
that's also something to consider.
yeah, man. And I think one of the things that is disadvantaging people that are doing mathematics, computer science, applied maths, etc., because these courses are not really, they are not like law. Like law, the course already comes
Mhm.
with presentations.
Yeah.
If someone is doing law, they are already presenting a lot and stuff like that. So I think with a lot of the quantitative courses, they don't have the humanistic element of it. Like people who are doing
Mm,
humanities, they do oral presentations, they do this and this. So
yes,
I
yes.
think it also builds them in that perspective. But if you're doing maths, you're just doing maths. So even a lot of mathematicians that I've encountered, they really can't, like, yeah, talking is not their thing, you know.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
they just want to do the maths, and they do the maths, and unfortunately it places maths graduates then at a disadvantage, which means that they need to upskill on those things, on those soft
Mm,
skills like presentations,
yeah, yeah,
communications, like
yeah.
you've said.
Yeah, so for
Yeah.
like for me as well, so like I used to take like a lot of initiatives like before I got the job in terms of like joining cyber communities and like I actually ended up presenting at a conference. So as someone as like young as me at the time, it was very nerve wracking. But at the same time, I mean, I presented to like hundreds of people. And I think for me, that gave me like the boost that I needed in terms of soft skills, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
but you're on the other side now. You're on the other side. You're in corporate.
Mm,
How is life there, man? Sometimes I go to Centen during the week, and I see the corporate people. You guys dress very nice there, man. You see them going for lunch and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this corporate life looks looks
yeah.
looks looks very glittering.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think that's just with the industry, right? Because it's sort of like like it's an inherent requirement to dress very well. So sometimes it may be deceiving. Like, no, I'm just saying if you meet like maybe a young accountant in the first month who dresses very well and stuff, it's, like people are still hustling in the background. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, like
Yeah.
besides that, I mean, it is quite different, especially if it's a large like organization because you sort of get thrown into a new world, right? And a lot of the job requirements require you to, like reach out to different people to complete projects on your own initiative. So it's sort of like this atmosphere now where you can find people based on their role. You can reach out to them, speak to them, go for coffee, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's like a mini world on its own to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, like people are still people, right? So it's just we just placed in a different place, but the conversations continue. Projects get done, and yeah, like life carries on.
Yeah. And then do you get to interact with like other professions? What are the professions that you're working very closely with? Like, are you working
Mm.
closely with quants, data scientists, or
Yeah, so like for me, it would be working closely with like a lot of managers of different business units. So
uh,
like because I'm effectively on like the business forefront, a lot of the meetings involve the business area expertise within that discipline. So the head of this, or the manager of this particular business unit. So that's generally who I interact with based on the different meetings that we have from time to time. Yeah.
hey,
So that's work. And then besides that, I mean, you do make friends as well. Especially if you come in from these grad programs, you tend to make a lot of friendships. And so you'll meet them during lunch break and so on and so forth. So yeah, it depends on the person. If you have like some people that are very or that have very strong initiative skills, they making friends all over. They speaking with everyone. So yeah, that happens as well.
were you on a grad program? Was this a
Yeah.
graduate program?
Yes, yes, yes. So that's why most of
Oh,
the roles which have graduate analyst or something of that nature means that's a graduate program. So I joined the Gen A corporate and investment banking graduate program. That's what it's called.
oh, oh, I see, I see. And
I
and
might
how
have
long is the
given a
grad
hint,
program?
but yeah. No, it's 18 months.
18 months. Oh,
Mm.
okay. I mean, you're getting paid during the grad program, right? I mean, like grad programs to
Mm.
me, they just look like it's a job. Like you're in, right?
So
you're
yeah,
in.
no, yeah, 100%. It's a job. Like for me, since I mean, even the first few months, it's coming in and it's getting work done. You know, the graduate programs do have a different element of training, which takes place simultaneously. Your leadership type of training and so on and so forth. And then yeah,
I
look,
see.
it does change from company to company. I know like some grad programs they would send the graduates for like a boot camp and stuff for training. So they'll go for 3 months training and then come back and start working. Whereas like certain consulting or bank specific jobs require you to come in and work within a few weeks. Yeah.
And then in this grad programs, I mean, you're not complaining about money, right? You're fine.
So compared to where we come from, yes, but then to like there are differences, right, in the types of roles. So depending on whether you're a quant, a business analyst, a data scientist, investment banker, things do change on that level. But most people are happy. Put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the banks, I remember when I was doing my honors, my dream was to work in the bank because I heard that the banks pay very well and that if
Mm,
you work in the banks, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, they're working with money, so they must be
yeah.
paying very well and stuff.
Mm,
So that's something very great.